I could have never imagined where I would be at today. I just wanted to sell 10 houses, and that felt like a mountain. Halfway through the year, and I said, there's no way I'll sell 100 houses this year. And my husband was like, it's May. You're at 60. You're absolutely going to do it.
You went from making $36,000 a year to making $100,000 a month.
From the outside looking in, it's fun, but sometimes it was a little miserable. I sold my first house in February, and I had my daughter in March. I remember doing a really important Zoom call, and she was sitting on my lap, and the entire time she pulled my hair. I was so frustrated, and after the call, I called my husband and I said, I can't do anything. And so it felt like a chore more than a blessing. That's really sad. I think it was a lot of mental health. I remember calling my mom, and she was like, what are you gonna do? You're not making any money right now. And I said, I'm gonna figure it out. All of our business is from 3 places: agent referrals, database, and social media. I can always see, like, are we doing the work? Is it showing up in our business on the lead side? And because our leads are driven organically, our conversion rate is a lot higher than if we were having to pitch ourselves every day versus people coming to us with an innate trust. Relationship first. We've never paid for an online lead. You don't have to have it all figured out to get it together. I had no systems until year 3. There's a day in my life when I'm done with real estate work by 12 o'clock.
Your new agent did 50 deals her first year. Pretty insane. What did you have to learn as like a leader to be able to get someone to go from 0 to 50?
So
you went from making $36,000 a year to making $100,000 a month in GCI. Everyone can look at the trajectory of your business and they can see it looks like a very linear line all the way up.
Yeah.
Well, not linear, exponential, but
yeah.
There's a lot of things that it takes to get to that. So what did it take for you to build that business?
Yeah.
And what can someone as another agent do to, if they wanted to build a similar type of business for that?
Yeah, so I think that sometimes when you see people like me who, have a lot of followers on Instagram or sell a lot of houses, and there's a new agent or somebody who's struggling, it feels so out of reach. Well, she can do that because she's got this many followers, or it's easier for her because of whatever. And so I have to remind people that this is just the start of my 5th year in the business. So literally in 2020, this time that year, I was making, $30-some thousand a year. So all of this growth has been so fast. The cost of the fast growth is like a lack of work-life balance, a lack of sanity, a lack of happiness at some points. I started my business after moving to a brand new state. I'm a mom of an almost 4-year-old, so I sold my first house in February and I had my daughter in March. And that year I had no childcare, so I was hustling with her literally on my hip every single day. From the outside looking in, it's fun and it's great, and wow, you sold 145 houses as a solo agent, and that must be awesome. But the fact of the matter is, it's if you want it, you have to work hard for it. And there were a lot of times where I worked really, really hard, and I'm glad I did because it got me, to where I am faster, but it wasn't easy, and it was also, sometimes it was a little miserable. You just have to, and this sounds so cliche, but it's all relationships. It's all intentionality. It's all being very strategic. Who are you talking to? How many people are you talking to a day? How are you putting yourself out there? Do you have a brand? Are you being intentional with who you're targeting? And I think a lot of agents struggle because they just want anybody to hire them. I was very clear from the beginning, this is who I want to work with, and this is who I'm going to talk to online, and I'm going to go all in on this group of people. And it has paid dividends to me because now I am the go-to agent in my market for my ideal client. And if I had to give a piece of advice for anybody, it would be, 1, figure out what are your values? Who do you want people to know you as? What do you want to perpetuate to society, and how can you market in that way? And then who is it that you want to work with, and go all in on that ideal client. When you do that, they will come in by the droves, no doubt.
A lot of people can look from the outside and they see the 160 transactions last year, and you're on track, we talked about it earlier, to do 200 plus.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I heard, everybody wants to reach the top of the mountain, no one wants to actually climb it.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's right. I talk to real estate agents all the time, and they always, I want to pick your brain. I want to know how you did it. And I'll tell them, and then they go home and they don't do anything. I think people are always looking for a shortcut, I don't think there is one. I think the hard work is the secret sauce. I remember as a first year mom, I would wake up before my daughter got up. I would work, when she's a newborn, you can just kind of sit her there, like I should have probably been more present, definitely in hindsight, but I would be her mom. I would do all the things I needed to do. When she would take a nap, I would work. And then when she would wake up, I would do the things I needed to do, and then I would work. When she napped and when she went to sleep, I would work. And I just worked all of the time. And my second year in the business, I hired childcare, and I had 6 hours a day to just work, and that's all I did. I never took time for myself. I never did all the things. And I don't necessarily think it's smart to not take a maternity leave. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy to not have the best work-life balance. But what I do think is that if you grind it out for a short period of time and you really go all in, it can set you up for years to come. And I still have to work hard today, but it's not the same kind of hard work as it was 5 years ago when I was in the trenches.
Was it hard to have a child and then have to be like, I know I have to work?
Yeah.
And you have to create that separation as a new mom?
Absolutely. I mean, it was so hard. So I found out that I was pregnant on the day of my real estate exam. Before I went to go take my real estate exam, I took a pregnancy test, and I found out I was pregnant. And then it was like, this is real. I just quit my full-time job, moved with my husband to another state, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any local sphere. I didn't have any database. I didn't have family. I had nobody around except for him. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I remember calling my mom, and she was like, what are you going to do? You are not making any money right now. And I said, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to have to figure it out. Because we could have lived off of his salary, but it wouldn't have been a bountiful life, It wouldn't have been the best life that we could have given her. And so I started working in October. So I had October, November, December, and then 2 more months before I had her. So a good 5-month head start. And I had her early because I was showing houses that morning and then went and got induced that afternoon. And it wasn't planned. I just ended up having some medical stuff and had to have her early. And I remember going to take her to the doctor for the first time, her first 3-day visit, and stopping to look at houses on the way. And it just felt like this is what I have to do. We can't even afford really childcare. And I had a lot of postpartum anxiety, and I was scared to put her in daycare, and there was a long wait list. So if I was going to do anything, somebody was going to come into my house, and that's expensive. And so I was like, if I want to build the life that I want for her, I have to do the work. But it was hard. And I felt a lot of guilt, I really should just enjoy this time. But I knew that the hard work now would set me up for later. I think the hardest part is today, though, looking back and realizing, dang, I could have been a more present mom, and I just try not to let myself feel guilty because I know that she has a really great life because of all the work. But I definitely felt a lot of guilt. I remember doing a Zoom call once, and it was a really important Zoom call, and she was sitting on my lap, and the entire time she pulled my hair, and I was so frustrated. And after the call, I called my husband, and I said, I can't do anything. I'm trying to do this, and I can't do anything because I have to do this. And so it felt like a chore more than a blessing. And in hindsight, that's really sad. I think it was a lot of mental health stuff. So I had a lot of guilt then. I still have a lot of guilt about it, but I just try to keep it moving.
But at some level, I imagine that earlier time, it was a little bit of fuel to...
It was. Oh, it totally was. Knowing that, so we were in a journey too also to pay off debt. And so every paycheck I got, we paid off debt with it. And so that was the whole thing. I'm going to sell more houses. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to set her up. I never want her to have to worry about anything. I never want her to have to worry about college debt if she decides to go to college. So we're going to do everything for her. So I felt guilty, but I also felt like I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing this for our entire family. And I just wanted to sell 10 houses that year. I ended up selling 28 houses that year, my rookie year. I just wanted to sell 10 houses. So the goal was just to use our income to pay off debt. I never thought ever that we would make enough money to build wealth. It was just, let's pay off debt. And now it's like, let's build wealth, let's get more debt, but the good kind of debt, you know? So our whole vision has totally changed. At the time, it was, how do we make life better for our family? And, you know, my husband was in the Army. It's not like he could work harder and make more. If he worked harder, he made the same amount until he got promoted. For me, it was, I can work harder and I can sell another house, and there's another $8,000 commission check, and we can use that to do this. So it was all just like, I think what fueled me was I had a big why. And a lot of times when agents don't know what their big why is, it can be hard, because what are you working so hard for? For me, it's always been very clear. It's her.
Yeah, very clear.
Yeah, very clear.
So that 0 to 28, looking at, you have over 300 agents in your community. What did you do? And then what do you kind of show them, like, this is how you can get like your first 2 deals a month? Yeah,
so my first deal came from an agent referral, and I knew then that is how I was going to get business to start out, at least. So because I was in a new market, I did not know anyone. We were also in the middle of COVID, and so we weren't like outdoor knocking, and I was in a new area. I was pregnant, like I wasn't about to go knock on doors. And then the market was moving so fast, you know, that I think any agent could have done some sort of business, which I think is a fundamental issue with a lot of agents right now who got into the business during that time, which is a whole nother topic. But my first deal was an agent referral that I found from Facebook. And so even if like the person listening to this is not in that same kind of market or new to their area or whatever, I would say that you've got to utilize the resources that you have right in front of you for free. I couldn't afford to pay for leads, didn't even know how to do it, wasn't about to cold call. And so I said, you know what, I'll get on Facebook and I'll interact with people. And it wasn't even just posting content. It was getting into Facebook groups where other agents were and putting myself out there and interacting with them to network and looking for opportunities. You know, real estate agents will get online and say, hey, I have a referral for Columbia, South Carolina. Who do you know? And I would pitch myself every single time as if I was a rockstar agent. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I could do it. And the first time I got an agent referral, I said, this is going to be it for me, because I don't know anyone here, but I can connect with other people who are on the same playing field as me, who are also real estate agents, and get them to trust me and send me their business. And my second deal was a referral from that client. So I got that agent referral, and then that buyer said, hey, my friend needs to buy a house. Can you help them too? And I did. And then since then, I have helped them both buy, both of them sell, and they've each referred me to people who have bought who will also probably sell with us. So from one agent referral, I'll probably do 6 or 7 deals. And I realized that, like, there's a whole world out here that my people in my market are not tapping into very well. Let me get into this. And then giving just really good customer service. So that first deal, I remember doing a buyer consultation with them, which was horrible, by the way. I had no clue what I was doing. And they said, how long have you been in real estate? And I said, oh, I got into real estate after I graduated with my master's in business. And they didn't ask me anything else, but they had no clue that they were my first deal until after we closed. I told them, and they were like, wow, like, you crushed it. And so I realized that if I can get people to trust me, and then I can show them why that was a good decision, they will get other people to trust me. Word of mouth is huge. So I tell people, relationship first. You know, we've never paid for an online lead, sold 450 houses in the last 4 years, and it's all on relationships. How do you connect with 5 new people every day and stay in relationship with them and remind them, hey, I can help you with real estate? And eventually it just comes because you're being good to people and they want to be good to you too.
I was going to say, I imagine you didn't just like pitch one person in a Facebook group and you got that referral immediately from that one.
No. So I would get in Facebook groups and I would join as many as I could, and I would post my headshot and say, hi, I'm Taley. This is what I do. This is where I work. If you need anybody, I would love to help you. And then people would, you know, comment back, and then I would add them on Facebook and I would talk to them and I would interact with their content. And then when I would see people say, hey, I'm looking for an agent in Columbia, now it's not just me that cheers for me, it's people that I've met, and they'll say like, oh, I know this agent, she works in Columbia, she seems really nice, she'd be happy to help, you know. And so the first deal I ever got from an agent referral was a guy named Joe, And I still talk to him to this day. He had no clue I was a new agent, nor did he ask, which also people should be asking and vetting out agent referrals, but he had no clue. I'm licensed with KW, and he also is. And when he asked for an agent referral, multiple people commented, and I said, I'm with KW, I'd love to help. And then I sent him a message, and I said, I see that you're at KW, I am too, how can I help? And he said, I would love to send this buyer to another KW agent. Never asked me a single question. And after we closed, I told him I was a new agent, and he was like, really? Wow. He said, I just figured you had the training, that you could do it. And I said, I had no clue, but I figured it out. And it's a constant thing, you don't just post one time. You don't just reach out to one agent. It's all consistency. It's repetition. It's doing it again and again. And now, my interactions with agents and like being so intentional with that, I get agent referrals all the time. People will randomly call me and say, hey, I need an agent in your market. How did you find me? Oh, an agent in my office recommended you. And a lot of times I don't even know these people, but they know me, and that's all that matters.
So I imagine you now especially have kind of like a system that you're like, here's the daily activities that I need to do.
Yes.
Like, what was that for you?
At first it was like sporadic, I knew that there were things that I did, like show up on social media, talk to people, but for a long time I felt like all the success that I was having was luck and just like a one-off, because I always heard people who were veterans in the market say, well, here's exactly what I do. If you make 100 calls in a day, this is how many people will answer, and this is how you get the appointments. And for me, it felt like I don't have a systematic way to predict. And then over time, I realized that maybe I'm not making a certain amount of calls every day, but there are activities that I do repeatedly, and that is what's getting me the business. So today, my activities look like I follow the DTD2 system in my database, and I talk to every person in my database at least 4 times a year. But we also do 5 to 6 client events every year. We also do pop buys. We also systematically talk to agents and love on the people who send us referrals. So one thing that I've really been intentional about is when people send us agent referrals, we love on them. A Starbucks gift card a few times a year, reaching out to them to make sure that we're wishing them happy holidays, but not in a weird way, like something of value. Now that I coach and train agents, I will create free resources and host free classes just for the people who send us agent referrals. And so it's how can I add value to their day? And then we've, of course, started doing YouTube. We started doing farming, but all of our business is from 3 places: agent referrals, database, and social media. So creating content very regularly, like how often are we posting online, how often are we showing up, building the brand. And it's different than making 100 calls every day, but there's still a checklist. There's still an activity tracker that we follow. And I can always see, like, are we doing the work? Is it showing up in our business on the lead side? And because our leads are driven organically, they're warmer. And so our conversion rate is a lot higher than if we were having to pitch ourselves every day versus people coming to us with an innate trust.
Yeah. And I want to get into like the social media a little bit, but I think it's like half your business comes from referrals, or it's pretty high? So like half of our business came from our database last year. And when I say our database, I mean the people that are actually in our CRM. Either they were repeat or they were referring us to people. And then I want to say like 30% or so came from agent referrals. We get over 100 agent to agent referrals a year for the past 2 years. And then the rest of it is social. So social media is actually the least for us. But it is such a good way for us to build our brand. But referrals in any way, shape, or form, we get a ton of them. So what it sounds like to me is like you have this system of you treat agents almost like clients.
I lead generate agents the same way I lead generate clients. That's exactly what I do. It's what I've done for the last 4 years. How do I go out and intentionally find people and get them into my world and love on them enough that they think of me when they think of my area? And so then it becomes, not only do they just have referrals for us, but when they know somebody that needs an agent in my market, they send them to us. And that happens all of the time. So 100%. We have a plan for how to get more agents into our world, how to love on them, how to stay top of mind to them, the same way we do people in our database who are potential buyers or sellers.
So what does that plan kind of look like that helped you go from like 2 to 10 to 20 closings a month?
So at first, to be totally honest with you, when we first started, it was not very systematic. It was not like, oh, we're going to talk to this many people a day. But when I created, and I don't recommend that everybody does this, but when I created content online, I was not just talking about how to buy or sell real estate. I was also talking about my life as a real estate agent, which I think is fine to do. And I would recommend people make personalized content. But without knowing what I was doing, I was attracting other agents into my world. And it wasn't purposeful. It's just what I've always done, just showing up authentically. And so by talking about being a mom in real estate and here's what my day looks like, other agents found me. And then I built a brand that way, and I added them all to my database. So the first system I ever put into place was having what I called Taley's referral network. And I created a simple Google form. And I said, you guys, I'm trying to build my referral network. When I have referrals that I want to send out, I want to be able to find people that I trust. And hundreds of people would fill out this Google form. And then I can go through that and intentionally connect with people. And also looking up and figuring out where are the most people coming from that could come to my area, and intentionally reaching out to those agents. I would actually get into Facebook groups and look up my city and figure out who has previously sent referrals to my area, even if it was 3 years ago, and I would add those agents on Facebook and say, I know that you've sent referrals to my area before. I just want to make sure that you have someone trusted here, and I would interact with them. Plus, ever since my second year in the business, I've always come to KW events every time and just really tried to make sure that I'm making the most of my time and talking to people and introducing myself. And it's just so helpful to move the business forward.
Yeah, that's smart that you looked up like where are the people that are moving into it.
Yeah.
Columbia. And then on top of that, you would love on them. I imagine you didn't, like, most people might go to them immediately, be like, hey, by the way, if you have anyone who's moving to Columbia, South Carolina, I would love to be your realtor. But that's not necessarily. No, not necessarily. Nope. I would add them. I would talk to them. I would engage with their content. And then when the opportunity presents itself, hey, by the way. And then because we're friends on Facebook, they see my content too. Yeah.
So when I post content, it is very, I live in Columbia. If you need help, I live in Columbia. Whatever. We'll post content that says, these are the people that we got under contract this week, or here's our solds. But also, I'm taking a picture in front of a house and saying, here for my inspection today, super excited. And then I typically am always putting at the bottom of the caption, like, here's how you can contact me if you know anyone. And so when I'm interacting and engaging with their content, the algorithm, I think, then pushes my content to them. And so they're constantly seeing me post. I mean, I remember a mortgage lender that I used to work with all the time. She said, I called her one day and I said, did you see my post on Facebook? She said, which one? You posted like 10 times today. And I said, exactly. That's the whole point. Like, we're just, and it's not even always like well thought out content. Sometimes it's just a photo of you putting your listing sign in the yard. And I mean, just updating people. And I think agents, even if they don't have a lot of business, whatever you're doing, you should be updating people about it. You're listening to a podcast to learn how you can be a better agent. Take a selfie in your car and then also share a screenshot of the podcast and say, listen to this on my morning drive today. This is what I learned. It was so great. Like, just staying top of mind and letting people know that this is the industry you're in can go so far. But I think agents, they get so caught up in what should I post or what should I say, and I say just do it. That's how you know that you're a little brand confused, when you're just constantly second guessing. Just do it and you'll figure it out along the way.
Yeah, and a lot of your videos are kind of more real, raw, authentic. But at the same time, like, you're very intentional with your brand. Like, you have Pink.
Yes.
You work with a lot of moms.
Yeah.
So there is intention around the strategy. Like, what have you found that's worked for you, and what have you also found that doesn't work for you?
My ideal client is a family just like mine, who is either relocating into Columbia or they live here and they need to sell their house and buy another one. But typically we want to work with people who are like us, right? So what has really worked for me is trying to find people who are very authentic to me. And we also have a heavy emphasis on military families because it's who we are. So I teach agents that, you know, if you want to work with $1 million buyers and you are not somebody who lives in $1 million house, that's okay. You just have to figure out what are their problems and how do you solve them, and how do you get into rooms that they're going to be in. How do you show up authentically? How do you post content that would be of value to them, which is a broad statement, but like something that would be relatable and helpful and all the things. For me, it was much easier to just seek out people who were like me. So other military spouses, other families who had relocated into the area who didn't know their way around and needed that personal touch of somebody who was also figuring it out or had figured it out. And so what's really worked for me has been basically making my ideal client a mirror of myself and thinking, gosh, when we moved, how helpful would it have been to know X, Y, and Z? And then talking about that again and again and again. What's not been helpful for me is when I was in the trenches of trying to figure it out, feeling like I had to do what everybody else was doing, or doom scrolling on Instagram and call it finding inspiration, you know, like trying to figure out what they were doing so that I could not necessarily replicate, but just take notes. And I think it's okay to be inspired by people, but just because it works for this person doesn't mean it will work for you, especially when you're not in the same lane as that person, you know? Like you can look at somebody who's in their 5th year of business and say, I want to do exactly what they did. If you're in your 1st year, it doesn't always work, right? Like you're not in the same place, not in the same market, not in the same anything. So for me, showing up real authentically and making my ideal client a mirror of me and saying, I'm going to show up as if I'm trying to earn my own business has been critical. And anytime I deviate from that and get shiny object syndrome and feel like I got to do this, I got to do that, it's a time suck. I just have to stay focused, and I have to learn that lesson a few times a year. Like it's not easy. You don't always remember it. You come to conferences like this, you see other people doing stuff, makes you want to go out and do it, and then you realize this is a waste. Like I need to just do what I'm good at and keep it moving.
Yeah, you're an example of the quote I've heard. We are best served to help who we once were or who we are.
Yeah, 100%. You know, like as far as my real estate business, I feel the same way as I do my coaching business. I really love to coach moms in real estate. And it's because I have such a soft spot for moms who don't feel confident to be able to grow. I could have never imagined where I would be at today because my vision wasn't even that big. You know, I just wanted to sell 10 houses, and that felt like a mountain. And then when I sold 28, my next goal was to sell 40, and that was like, there's no way I can do it. And then the year that I sold 145 houses, which was my 3rd year in the business, I remember being like halfway through the year or maybe even earlier on, and I had already gotten to like 60, and I said, there's no way I'll sell 100 houses this year. And my husband was like, it's May, you're at 60, like you're absolutely going to do it. And I've just always struggled with that, you know, even as someone who is still, I mean, I would say that our business is great. I still struggle with that, like imposter syndrome and not knowing whether or not I can hit the goals or be where I want to be. And so helping someone who is still very early on in their career and struggles with that and giving them the tools and the ability. I can't teach you hard work. I can't teach you work ethic, but I can give you the education that you need. And I feel like as long as I'm doing that, it's on you to do the rest. And so creating an environment and a space where there's collaboration and support and education that isn't overwhelming, I needed that. I never had it. I needed it. And so I love to help people who, you know, I feel like when you're climbing the ladder, throw your hand back, pull somebody else up. That's how I've always operated.
And I'm sure you have a lot of agents who ask you, like, what should I even post? And a lot of people probably think they need to say 100 different things, whereas like marketing is kind of saying a few things 100 different ways.
100%. I think that if you're not repeating yourself, you're messing up. say the same thing over and over and over again. I posted an Instagram reel today about a neighborhood in my market. In the last month, I've probably posted something about that neighborhood 3 times because that's where I want to work. That's where I want to attract people. It's where I live. And I don't, the same person is not going to see your content every single day. Like if you have 100 followers, they're not all seeing your post. But the point is, it's like to have that repetition that reminds them again and again, this is the thing that I'm an expert in. When you need help with this, call me, And so I feel like people feel like they have to reinvent the wheel or come up with a new thing every single day. You don't. Like, what is at the core of your message, and how do you say that again and again and again without literally saying it again and again? I think that when you drive your business with your ideal client in mind, with your core values, like, you can master the messaging once you get real clear on who you are and how you want to serve and who you want to serve. And then it becomes easy. What do I need them to know today? Did I say the same thing 2 weeks? Yes. How do I say it again differently?
So do you do any type of planning, whether it's monthly, quarterly, here's what we're going to do? Because you're doing a lot between the events, between social media content, and just everything in general. Yeah.
So last year in November or December, we went ahead and booked out every day for our client events for the entire year this year. So my entire team has calendar invites for every event that we're doing this year. And then we meet every week as a team, but we also do a once a month in-person planning session to say, okay, what's our next event? What do we need to do in preparation for this? And at some point we will hire somebody who is very community forward, because our goal is to serve our community. Our 3 values are faith, family, and service. And I feel that community is a big part of that. Like, how do we serve the people around us? So it's definitely something that has to be planned out, but we haven't always been that way. Yeah. It has definitely been messy, and we've just figured it out. And that's another thing I think agents definitely need to know is you don't have to have it all figured out to get it together. I mean, I had no systems until year 3. And I mean, at that point I had sold over 100 houses in 2 years. I had no systems. So now we are very systematic, and we plan things out in advance. And I have a checklist of things that I need to do every week to be able to stay on task. And even with my social media content, I have a plan, and I don't always follow it exactly, but I know that this week, here's what I'm going to post about. And so I move throughout the day and week with the intention of, I'm going to post a day in my life. So at least once this week, I need to get myself together and have a good day so I can create content, right? So we're very methodical, but it's hard to be that way when you are in the thick of it. Yeah. And, that year I sold 145 houses. I was in the thick of it every day. So it was real hard. So leverage was key. And now that we have some good key players on our team, it's a lot easier for me to be able to move into a role where I can make sure everything's being done the right way.
Yeah, talk about that for a minute. Going from 30 to 140, it's a huge jump.
Yeah. So I did 28, and then I did 86, and then I did 145. And the key things that got me from year to year were I built my brand. So my first year I did 28, and I would say I had a brand, but it was still in the works. It wasn't solid. And then over that year, I really figured out all the things, my values, who I wanted to talk to, how I wanted to talk to them, how I wanted to get business. And then I hired a coach, and I coached with somebody for my next year and a half, probably almost 2 years. And that was a game changer for me. I had enough money to invest in my business. So I can't remember when, but sometime during year 2, I hired a coach, and it was absolutely a game changer. It was somebody who knew way more than me and had done this before, and they could walk me through and help me see the potholes before I hit them. So having that mentor it helped me crush. And then I hired leverage. So my first hire was a babysitter. I got 6 hours a day back, and I was able to pour that into my business. And then I realized that, dang, I'm spending half of my free 6 hours showing houses. I'm all over the place. And so I hired an assistant who would help me show houses when I had meetings, and who would do some administrative work for me. And then I hired a virtual assistant, a TC, all that good stuff. So the game changer from going to 28 to 86 was a mentor who could help me leverage and a better and more solid brand so that I could actually go out and like start interacting with the community more and lead generate. We didn't start doing events until end of year 2. And then I was like, dang, like this is such a great way to connect to people and ask for referrals. And so then we got real serious about that. And then from 86 to 145, I don't even know. Like it was just an absolute hurricane. It was insane. But I think it was because that was the year I hired a VA. And then my TC became full-time only with us. It was also the year that my husband got out of the Army. And so I was able to have a lot more flexibility at home. He was super supportive. And so just having more time to dedicate to the business allowed me to do a lot more work. When I got leverage, I didn't use it for luxury. I used it to lean into my business and to lead generate more. So I got more time back and I actually lead generated with it instead of just hanging out at home and not doing anything.
Yeah, makes sense. And I want to get into the part about like having more time, that your husband, all that in a minute. But there's something that you said with like the nanny, the daycare and all that. Was there any guilt of like, because a lot of people think of like, I don't want someone else like parenting my child. So how do you think about that?
Oh yeah, there was a ton of guilt. I mean, I really felt like, I think there's this epidemic on social media of people who get in, moms specifically and women who get into real estate because it's flexible, according to them. And I actually saw a post recently that said something along the lines of, I wanted to be a real estate agent so that I could be a stay-at-home mom. And that has never been my goal.
Wow.
Like, I don't ever want to be a stay-at-home mom. And there's no problem with being a stay-at-home mom. I think that's awesome. And if you feel empowered and happy doing that, that's great. I personally don't even have the patience to be a stay-at-home mom. And it doesn't fulfill me the way like it does for other women. So I felt a lot of guilt about that. You know, shouldn't I want to be home more with my child? And there were moments when I wanted to, but I couldn't because I had to work. But, you know, of course I feel guilty about that. And sometimes people make you feel guilty about it because of the things they say. Like, oh, I could never sell that many houses because I want to be present at home. And it's almost like a gut punch, like you think I can't do both. And I remember somebody in my market making that remark of, I purposefully sell less houses because I want to be at home with my kids. And I feel that in the setting that we were in, it wasn't just their opinion. It was like a jab, you know. And sometimes I want to say, well, maybe you couldn't sell that many houses, you know, like maybe that's why you're not selling as many houses. But I definitely feel guilty about it. But then I realize I'm also teaching my daughter what it looks like to be able to stand on her own 2 feet, to never have to depend on someone for anything, to be able to leave situations if she wasn't happy and not have to feel like financially tied. What it looks like to work hard and to get the things that you want in life. I mean, I moved from, and I love my hometown and I love the people in my hometown, but I moved from the poorest county in North Carolina out of state and built a multi-million-dollar business. And I think that one day I hope that she looks at that and she's like, wow, I can be a boss too. Like I can be somebody's CEO too. And even if I was a stay-at-home mom, I think that there are kids that can learn from that. But there are lessons that I wanted to teach her, and I don't feel fulfilled being at home every day. I feel fulfilled building something. And so even though I felt guilt, I also remembered that it's okay. It's okay to do your own thing. And that's what I teach moms is like, don't feel guilty for showing up and being who you are, because it doesn't just impact you, it also gives them something good. You know, my daughter went to Disney World 10 times last year. Like, she's definitely not doing that if we were just living off my husband's salary, you know? So there's a lot of things that she gets because of the hard work. So when I feel guilty about that, I remember that, you know, she's going to be able to grow up and say, I had a mom who taught me this. And I had a mom that taught me, don't ever rely on somebody else to make your world better. Do it yourself. And I think that's great.
It's easy, I would say not easy to understand, but generally understandable for the public or people to be like, okay, let me get leverage in my business. But then the thing that's a little more of a stigma is getting leverage at home.
Yes.
And that is kind of looked down upon, or like there's a little bit of pride. There's different thoughts around that.
Yeah, we have a lot of leverage. So my daughter had an in-home babysitter for a year and a half, and then she left to do something, and then that didn't work out, and she came back. And by that time, we had already had her in daycare. But I hired her again because I said, I need help at home. So I have somebody who comes over every single day to my house, and they make the bed, and they do the laundry, and they clean, and they watch the dogs and make sure they get fed, and they run errands for me when I need it, and they cook dinner for us when we need it. You know, they do a lot. And then I actually have a cleaning company that comes over every 2 weeks and cleans. We have somebody who does the lawn. We have somebody who cleans up our yard because we have 2 dogs. We have a ton of leverage. And I'll tell you why. It is so important for my marriage that we have a lot of leverage. I am not the wife that comes home every day and cooks dinner for my family. At least not in this era. Like, would I maybe be one day? Sure. Like, I'm trying to build a business that lets me be off of work every day at 2 o'clock. We're just not there yet. So I'm not the mom who cleans up every day and does all the things. I'm not that wife. And that can be hard when well, first of all, I never committed to be that wife, but like it can just be hard when you're in the thick of parenthood with a young child. The house is a wreck. She's a mess. She always needs attention. It's just strenuous on a marriage. And so like having people who can do those things so that we're not arguing over whose responsibility was it to do this. We ended up hiring that lady to come in and do the things every day, because the argument that we kept having was we have somebody who comes and cleans every 2 weeks, but then there would be so much laundry. And every day before she came, I would be like, gosh, we've got so much laundry, like it's all over the place. She can't even come in here and clean unless we throw all this laundry here, there, and everywhere. And I would say, I'm not working 10 hours a day to come home and do laundry. I'm not doing it. And my husband would say, I don't want to do it either. Like, I'm also working. I'm also doing all the things. And I said, okay, then we're going to pay somebody to do it. And it's so worth the money because it saves my sanity, saves my marriage. It keeps me from having to do stuff I don't want to do. And then I get to come home and spend time with my daughter instead of coming home and cleaning up every single day. I don't have to do any of it. And I don't feel bad about it either because that's not my strong suit. Let somebody else do it.
Can you talk about that, like the marriage and how moving through those challenging moments of like you building the business, becoming stepping into that role?
Yeah, so my husband is in the Army Reserves, and so, you know, he was active duty Army for years, and even when he was in college, you know, he still had a very Army lifestyle because he was in ROTC, so his way of living has always been very structured and methodical and reporting to someone. And when we first got married, he was definitely the breadwinner. He says that he always knew that I would do something to push me up, regardless of what it was. And then when I decided to get my real estate license, he said he knew that. He's always had a lot of confidence and faith in me. So he says that he knew that it was only a matter of time before the roles reversed. But when we made the joint decision for him to get out of active duty and to step more into a role where he would be more present at home and also be more present in the real estate business, even though that was a joint decision, we knew it was best for us, it was still hard. Because he went from being, you know, this person who woke up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to PT at work, and then he was a leader in his battalion, and he's an officer, and the role that he held in the Army was people reported to him. And he had worked really hard. I mean, he was in JROTC in high school, he was in ROTC in college. He had spent 8 years prior to, and then 6 years active duty, doing all the things. So moving into a role where some people would say you work for your wife, or you work for the business that your wife created. And then especially for the first stretch, we didn't have childcare, so like he was primarily at home. That was hard. It's hard on a marriage, and it's hard mentally for somebody, and he struggled with that. But we knew that it was the best decision for our life and financially. And then eventually we got my daughter into childcare, and we figured out what was his role going to be. You know, was he going to be an agent? Was he going to help with the business? And so we realized that his strengths were systems and strategy and holding down the fort. He was a finance officer. He has a math degree, so money really excites him, and like doing all those things. So we figured out, okay, where is your best strength? And then we put him in that role. And ever since then, he has really thrived. There's definitely moments where, I would say not anymore, but as recently as the last 12 months, where it's like, am I really thriving? Like, do I have a role? What is my why? And so now we are both, you know, I have a real estate coach. He has an operations coach. But I think he understands, I would be willing to bet that he does, that I can't do any of this without him. It is very joint. Like, it is definitely our business. It's not mine. I might be the face, I might be the brand, but it's ours, because without him, I couldn't do any of it. And most recently, he has spent the last year really focusing on our wealth. So I don't even know what he does, but he invests a lot of our money for us, buys rental properties. He takes the lead on all of that. And it has been real helpful, because not only do we make more money because I have more capacity to do more because he's in the business with me, but the money moves that he's made over the last year for us has saved us over $150,000 in taxes. Like almost $200,000 has saved us in taxes, probably more than that actually. And I think about that as like money earned, you know, like now we get to take all that money and move it somewhere else and do the things that we need to do. And we could not have done it without him. So my dad even says that sometimes people will ask him, what does Jordan do? And his response is, he makes the world turn. Like, it doesn't turn without him. And it's so true. We definitely went through, 6 months or so where it was tough, but it has definitely mellowed out, and we are a power duo is what I like to think of us as.
Thinking of that moment, those 6 months, how did you navigate those conversations without going towards conflict? I'm sure there probably was.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say there was a lot of conflict for sure. So my husband and I are the same personality-wise. I am strong and bullheaded, and it is my way. And probably not the best trait. I think it's linked me well in life, but in a marriage, it's hard. But I think he knows who he married. We dated in high school, and then we had a stint in college. It was, messy, but we eventually, worked out and obviously got married. And he has known me for the majority of my life, so he knows who I am. And I have said multiple times that if you wanted to marry, not in the middle of an argument, I don't mean this argumentative, but we've talked about things, and I said, if you wanted to marry someone who was going to listen to you, it is not me. Like, I am not that person. And I should probably be a little bit more lax, but it is very much like me. I want to do what I want to do. And he is the same way. But when it comes to me, he's not that way. We argue about things and we have it out, and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, what I want and how I want things to go takes precedent to him. Meaning he is happy to do the things that make me happy, which is one of the many reasons why I love him. And so there are times when I also have to say, let's do what you want to do, because I know that you sacrifice so much to do what I want to do. And so there were definitely a lot of conflicts where we had to go back and forth. But I, as a wife, have always tried to remind him of just what I said. I could not do any of it without you, and you need to remember how instrumental of a role you play. But the key was definitely getting him his own real estate coach. So he has an operations coach, and they're able to help him see what he needs to do and then set goals for himself. And there's some autonomy there. Like, he has a role that he plays in the business where he calls the shots, So I might call the shots at home, but there are places that he gets to call the shots in business. And just giving him something that he can take ownership of has been so key for us. So now it's not like we are butting heads. It's, hey, this is what I need. This is what the business needs. Can you take ownership of this? And then he does, and it works out. And it's like, wow, this is a win for you. It's not just me that's winning. It's both of us. But that was hard. It was a hard time.
I think you both kind of helped each other. Like,
100%.
he saw you as you, and he believed in you, even when you weren't, like, at the level you are now. And then you flip the other side of the coin. You're like, hey, you are an instrumental part of the business. So having that full-fledged belief in each other
100%.
was probably a big role.
Oh, it is. Whenever I quit my job, he put me in on his bank account so that I could have a card. And he always says that he did that because he knew that one day I would fill it up. Like, maybe not then, but one day. And so he's always believed in me, and I the same. You know, when I've had confidence issues, he's my number one supporter. When he has them, I do everything I can to lift him up too. We are very much there for each other, especially, you know, we've been through hard times in our marriage early. I mean, we've not even been married for 5 years, right? So we've gone through some hard stuff on the personal side, not with either of us, but like family stuff. And seeing each other through really hard times has been, I think, helpful too. You know, we got married in 2020, so it's like around COVID. Right before we got married, both of our grandparents passed away. So like in a span of, 9 months, we lost all of our living grandparents. And then after we got married, there was some stuff with family that really changed our entire world. And so just really realizing, like, we are who we have, you know? Obviously we have there's support there from our family too, but when we go through hard things, like, it's us. Like, we're married. This is it. We got to make this work. And so, you know, just realizing that at the end of the day, we're on the same team, even when it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just being each other's supporters.
Yep.
Was that something you had to learn, or was that something that you just...
We had to learn it. Yeah, we had to learn it. So we were really good friends for years before we got engaged. And there was, if you knew our story, it would make a lot more sense. But when we were in college, we were really good friends, but it was like a situationship. You know, it wasn't always smooth. There was a lot of mess. And so eventually we found our way back to each other. And so the time in college when we were dating, or not dating, but, you know, hanging out, it was messy. There was a lot of fights. It was unhealthy. It was, toxic, very toxic. And so we had to unlearn that behavior of, like, going at it all the time and being at each other's throats. And we've always loved each other, but it was just a little bit of a mess. And so when we got married, you know, my conflict resolution is not to have a calm conversation, and neither is his. Like, I will leave or go at it with you. And so we've had to learn how to handle each other when we get mad, and it's an ongoing thing. Like, again, we've not even been married 5 years, so I think probably in 5 more years we'll still be having conversations on how to be better for each other and to each other. But we are very much both strong and loud, and like, we are who we are, and that is what it is. He bends a lot more than I do. And so it's just, you know, an ongoing, like, how do we make this even better? And working with each other isn't always easy either, because sometimes he says he would rather go back to the Army than work with me, because sometimes, you know, I said something to him the other day and it made him so mad. He had messed up. I don't think he messed up something, but, like, I think I probably wasn't clear in my communication, and so he didn't. And I just said to him, do I need to lower my expectations of how you're going to operate? Like, are you going to step up to the plate? And he was like, I cannot believe you just said that to me. And I had to apologize. He was so mad, though. So it's little things like that is what I'm trying to say, of, like, yeah. I've got to learn how to be more tactful, and he's got to learn how to do X, Y, and Z. And, you know, I struggle with that. And he struggles with telling me that I have to be more tactful instead of just like losing it. We have our things.
Yeah, because like navigating any difficult conversation, doesn't matter if it's relationship, business partners, like you have to navigate difficult conversations.
Yes, and I don't think either of us grew up in a household where communication was great on the parent side. I mean, both of us have parents that are still married. I don't think that either one of us grew up in a household where, these days people will like go get couples therapy and make it a priority and sit down and like intentionally, how can we be better for each other? That was never I mean, we grew up in a small southern state, like a little town, and so it was never like a priority.
There's a stigma for the older generations 100%. For therapy. And
so we just learn how to love the way we see it. And I love my parents. I do feel like there was some arguing, that happened as most parents do. And so you see that growing up and you think, oh, it's normal to yell or it's normal to be mad and like walk out. And I think it probably is normal, but that doesn't mean it's healthy. Yeah. And so we both have had to learn how to be better. And it is an ongoing thing. So then you throw in, I'm going to quit my job in the Army and come work with you. We also don't work together. Like, we're not sitting in an office together all day. We're not doing that. We're in two separate spaces, and we've learned that that's the best way for us to be too. But us having two different roles, me on the sales side, him on the operations side, has been really great because then he gets to stay in his own lane and I get to stay in my own. And so now, my job is to learn how do I become a better leader for our team, but also with him. How do I work better and have more patience and not say things like, do I need to adjust my expectations? Like, I shouldn't say that. But, it's all a learning experience.
Yeah, and it just makes you a better leader at the end of the day, which goes into, like, your new agent did 50 deals her first year.
Yeah, she did.
Which is pretty insane for a new agent. Like, what did you have to learn as, like, a leader to be able to get someone to go from like 0 to 50?
Yeah,
so chances are, if you're watching this podcast, you want to grow your real estate business, but your time is limited. So if you value your time and you want to grow your brand, have a marketing team execute your marketing for you, and be kind of like your own personal media and brand and help you scale your time, then click the link below, fill out the form, and schedule a call. We can walk through a marketing strategy for you, just like we've helped our clients last year close over 75 million in closed listings and buyers directly from YouTube. And not just YouTube, we do email marketing, listing promotion, social, and way more. So if you value your time and you want to scale your brand and scale your marketing so you can focus on what matters, click the link below, fill out the form, schedule a time, and we could talk about what marketing strategy you should implement in your business so you can scale your time by hiring our marketing team to execute for you.
There's an agent on my team. Her name is Marina, and I just have to sing her praises. She is bilingual. She moved to Colombia probably about the same time that I did. She didn't know anybody either. She's also moved because of the military. And before she started working with me, she was working part-time at GNC. And she reached out, and I liked her a lot, but she wasn't licensed, and so I hired her as an admin, and I said, I'll just pay you per week or something, just stay. And she was wrapping up her licensing. And so then she started becoming my showing partner, and then I knew that she wanted to be a buyer's agent or an agent on my team. So I helped her transition. That's what really got me to start a team, because I liked her a lot and I wanted to keep her. And I knew I wanted to start a team, but it's just a natural progression. And so I've had to learn that everybody doesn't move the way I do. Everybody can't handle what I can handle. And I remember when I first started giving her leads, I made her earn it. Like, even though she was a showing partner for me, I made her earn the right to get leads from me as a buyer's agent. And so there was a period of time when she first started when I wasn't giving her leads, and then eventually I decided that I was going to. And then I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I'm giving her leads. She gets to take the leads. It's a win-win. She's building her business. I get some stuff off of my plate. I'm just going to keep doing this. And so I remember giving her way too many at one time. And that is a mistake as a leader. You have to pace people, because not everybody can handle what you can handle. And I just remember her saying, this is a lot. Like, can you slow down? And so I've learned that I can sell 145 houses a year. I can have 35 houses in escrow at one time. Does it look messy? Yes, but I can handle it. But everybody can't do that. Like, even with all the support in the world, it's really hard for most people to go at that pace. And the thing is that most people who listen to this or see me on stage or whatever, they're like, I want to do that. I want to sell. But the truth is like, most people can't. Even if you wanted to, most people cannot, because it is such a mental load that it becomes physical. It is like, I never want to sell 145 houses by myself again. I never want to, because it was very hard. Even with admin support, it was like, you don't have any time to do anything but that, especially when you're a mom. And so as a leader, I've had to learn that, like, everybody doesn't move at the pace that I do, and that's okay. It's more about their goals than mine. And then when I first started my team, I don't think I was the best leader. I know I wasn't. I hired an agent, and I let him go in like 5 weeks. And I'm a real big advocate for that. Hire slow, fire fast. But I think I could have been a better leader to that agent. And I've told them that, you know. I think that when I first started as a team leader, I was still very focused on me. Like, I want to hit my goals. I want to hit my metrics. I need to be doing the deals. It was very much about me, you know. And I remember telling my coach, I'm the reason why we're behind. I'm the reason why our team isn't moving faster, because I'm making this about me instead of like, how do we grow together as a team? And so I've since learned that my best role is as a leader. My best role is doing my 20%, leading the team, building the brand, and that's what brings the business in. But if I'm knee deep selling 100 plus houses a year, I can't be the best leader, because I'm focused on my real estate business. So going from being, you know, closing personally 10 plus houses a month to actively trying to not do that ever again was a huge mindset shift, because you put a lot of value in your success as an agent. You put a lot of your worth in, am I selling enough houses? Like, I remember there was a time when I felt like real estate agents aren't going to want to learn from me if I'm not the one selling all the houses. Like, I'm scared to tell people that I want to start a team and get out of production, because will they still want to work with me if I'm not selling 100 houses? So you put a lot of like weight on how many houses you sell. When you get to a point to where you're making $1 million a year and selling houses, it can definitely become your identity. And so as a leader, I had to learn that I don't ever want to raise the people on my team to feel their self-worth from how many houses they sell. So we're going to make goals that are value-based and vision-based, and I'm going to take a step away from my transactions, and I might make less money for a little while, but it's better because now I get the opportunity to pour into you and to lead you and to put you on the right path. And it's really fulfilling to see people go from making minimum wage, working part-time hours, to making over $100,000 as a 24-year-old. And to know that, wow, I had a big role in that. Like, there's a different type of gratitude that comes with putting people in a position to where they can become millionaires, you know, like changing their lives instead of it just changing mine. And then because you're changing their lives, you're changing yours too.
Yeah, it's a big switch when you go from like they work for me versus I work for them.
100%. It is such a big switch when you stop thinking about how do I sell as many houses as I can. You know, I tell people everything I've ever wanted is on the other side of hard work and ego. Drop the ego. It's not about you. It's not about the houses you sell. It's not about the awards. It's not about any of that. It's about the lives that you're impacting, the people that are buying and selling with you, and then the lives that you're giving your team. So I have 2 other agents on my team who are single moms, and I just have this deep desire to help them create a life that they are confident in and proud of. You know, so when I hired them, I sat down with them and I said, how much does it cost you to live? You know, how much do you need to be able to pay your bills and to give your kids the life that they need right now? And so they said, this much. I said, okay, here's how many houses you got to sell. That's where we're going to get you. You give me a year, you do what I say, you take my leads, you convert them. This is where we're going to get you. And I know that when they hit that goal, they will be forever grateful. and I don't expect agents to stay with me forever at all, but I feel like when you hire the right people who are a good culture fit, which you can't teach, and you give them a life-changing opportunity and they actually do the work, then that is so much more powerful than I sold 145 houses. Now I get to say, oh, I helped this person, make $100,000 last year. And so now we're having bigger conversations of how do we make $100,000 passively? How do we get you to where you are leaving a legacy for people that you're passionate about helping too? So it's just a totally different arena, and it's a lot more fun and fulfilling. Yeah.
What have you learned about coaching agents? And I imagine you've probably thought through that.
Agents are tough. I think that sometimes agents want things to be complicated because that gives them an excuse for why they're not successful. If it was easy, then why wouldn't they? And I don't think that being successful in real estate is easy. I think that it's simple, but I don't think it's easy. So a lot of times I find that real estate agents overthink so bad. I mean, they will just overthink and like, should I post this or should I post? And I'm just like, just do it. Just do the work. I find that there are a few different types of people, the people who need hand-holding and accountability, and then the people who don't need that because their work ethic and their drive is just so strong. And I don't think that if you need accountability, you don't have a good work ethic. I just think that there's some sort of misalignment there where, like, you've got to get over this hump so that you can actually do the work. I really like to work with people who don't need the accountability and who don't need the hand-holding. And so what I've learned is that there's a few different ways that I can coach and train. One is like mass. So I have a membership for moms in real estate. We have, at this point, about 350 moms in there. And so there's not a lot of one-on-one. I'm teaching them every single week, but I'm not holding their hand and talking to them on the phone and walking them through transactions, and I like that. The people that I want to coach one-on-one or I want to be more enveloped in their business are the $20 million producers. I don't have to teach you how to go get another deal. You know how to do that. I can teach you how to switch up your lead gen strategy. Maybe you want to add more listings. We can talk about that. But you know how to work because you're doing it clearly, or you wouldn't be selling $20 million worth of real estate. Now you just want to be more holistic in your approach. You want to build wealth. You want to grow your team. You want to be more strategic. Those things are what I like to lean into when I'm working with someone that has a little bit more access to me. But my mom's group, I love that because I get to give them impactful opportunities and education and community, but I'm not holding every single one of their hands and saying, here's how you go get a listing appointment. I don't want to teach you that. I have a hard time teaching that because to me, and this might sound a little arrogant, but to me it's like common sense, it's all relationships, it's all talking. The more people you talk to every day and the more strategic you are about it, the more business you're going to get. And so for me, it's hard for me to get on a lower level and teach it from the ground up, personally, because sometimes I just want to shake people and like, just get out there and do it. But I've learned that agents, they have a really hard time with overthinking, and they don't just do the work, they just think about doing the work, and they never do it.
What is one thing, if you could change within the industry, you would change? I'm without a doubt, it would be this fallacy that like we're just flexible real estate agents who get into the business so that we can have more time at home and be able to do whatever we want. There's a day in my life when I'm done with real estate work by 12 o'clock. That day will be here in the next 2 years. I guarantee you there will be a day where I'm done with my job in real estate in the first 4 hours of the day. But it will have taken me years of working 50 plus hour weeks to get there. And there will always be real estate agents who can work 25 hours a week and make six figures. And I think there's a lot of things that go into that price point, desire, all the things, area that you're in, what the ebbs and flows of that market are. And you can absolutely make six figures in your business and not work 40 hours a week if you're strategic enough. But I also feel like you're going to be doing that for a long time because you're probably not doing a lot of business to the point to where
you're making an excess amount of money that you can then go invest and become wealthy. Like, it's one thing to be rich. It's one thing to make $150,000, $200,000. It's another thing to be wealthy. And so, like, for us, do I need to make $1 million to live every year? No. Do I need to make $500,000? No. But when I have that excess money and then I take it and I go invest it, now I'm becoming wealthy. Now I'm getting to a place where I can be work optional at 40, 45 years old instead of having to sell houses when I'm 70 years old, you know? And so I think there's this trend on Instagram or TikTok or wherever where it's like, I got into real estate so that I could work 10 hours a week and make $100,000. And I think it's largely a recruiting tactic for some brokerages where people want to share the lifestyle of a real estate agent and make it sound so awesome so that they can get people to move to their brokerage because their brokerage is better for that, or get people to get licensed because they can add them to their downline. I think it makes us look like we don't deserve the money that we make because our job is so easy. I have no problem with getting on the internet and saying I made $1.3 million last year selling real estate, even in the midst of like a lawsuit where, you know, the NAR settlement, maybe people do think we make too much money. But I also say, yeah, because I worked 50 hours a week or more for it, because I hustle, because I work my ass off, you know. I'm not ever going to say I work part-time hours and make six figures. Because could I? Maybe. But do I think that's a good stereotype to put out there? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I think it sends the wrong message.
Yes.
So when you look at the future and kind of what you want to build to get to that place that you're able to take a step back, like what, like systems, like support, like structure in the business, what are you putting in place?
Yeah, so my organizational chart is currently set up where it's me who is doing the majority of the listings, and then I'm passing buyers off to my agents. And I have to be real clear about that. Like, I'm still very involved in transactions, probably more than I should be if I want to have a good balance. But I'm still at the point to where it's very important for me to have relationships with the people that we're helping, even if I'm not the one that's doing all the heavy lifting of showing the houses or whatever. So I have me doing the listings and being the team leader. And then I have my husband as the DOO. I have a full-time transaction coordinator, 3 agents, a showing partner, and a virtual assistant. My transaction coordinator is currently moving into an operations manager role, and the thought behind that is when my husband and I go on vacation, somebody still has to work. And so we really want to build a world to where we could both go somewhere and like somebody's on the home front doing the things, and also allowing Jordan to take more of an instrumental role in our investments and our wealth and letting that be the focus instead of like the hustle and bustle of the real estate world. So then the operations manager can come in and help make the systems better and figure out how do we make more money by tightening things up on our end. I'm currently training an agent to become a listing specialist so that eventually I can be out of the listing side too. And then making sure that we have the right agents on our team. So for me, I can teach you how to do a deal. I can't teach you loyalty. I can't teach you honesty and character and culture. I can't teach you any of that. So like finding the right people, and then administrative support. So I would rather have a stacked admin that's really good at things like that versus hiring a bunch of real estate agents. It is my goal right now. I mean, in 2 years I might say something different, but I don't really want to have a huge team of agents that I've got to police and manage. I don't want to do that. I want to be a leader. So I want to have the right agents who can handle the volume of business that we have, who want that. I don't get out of production unless I have people who are handling the back end, unless I have the right agents that I can trust to give the business to. And me getting out of production doesn't mean I don't work hard. It means I work really intentionally. And that is the goal, is like to have the key players in our team, you know, and love on them really good and give them the best life and business that we can. And make sure our systems are, you know, good. But I don't think there's ever a day where it's perfect. I think we can always get way better, and there's always room for growth. But to get out of production and to be, you know, working 4 hours a day instead of 8 or 10 means that I've got to have people who are doing the deals and who are making sure that the administrative stuff is done. And then my job is to find the business. My job is to be the brand. So I'm still working just differently.
Yeah. Business in general can always, it feels like, oh, you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's like this constant, never-ending up and down.
Yeah.
And so when you're hiring, looking for the people, you're very intentional on who you hire, getting the right culture fit.
Yeah.
What have you learned through the hiring process of getting the right people?
Yeah, I think you got to be careful with who you hire and what you tell them and how much you tell them and whether or not you can trust them. I have learned that for some roles, I don't want to hire anybody who wants to be me. You know, I think it's great to be ambitious and to want to build a business, but and again, I don't think agents will probably stay forever, right?
Yeah.
But I tell my agents, you can build a business within ours. You know, you give good service, people will come back to you. We're going to love on them. We're going to do the lead generation that retains them and keeps them in our world. And when they come back, you know, they'll call you, and it's still a part of the team. I hired a showing partner once, and I remember, like, she was a new agent. She wasn't doing a lot. She wasn't doing any business. And so I hired her to help me with showings. And then I think she got real comfortable in that, and she was happy with that. But then she walked into the office once, and somebody said, "Oh, you're a licensed agent. I thought you were just Taley's assistant." And that was a real big blow to her of like, dang, I got my license to be able to work, and like I'm not. So I got to leave, and I got to go join a team, and I got to actually sell real estate instead of being Taley's assistant. And so what I've learned is that when you hire people to their strengths, right, like you got to find somebody who doesn't want to be anything other than what their role is. My showing partner now has no desire to sell houses, has no desire to build a brand or lead generate or negotiate, write contracts. They just want to show houses and be a part of the team. That is the right fit for that role. My transaction coordinator, who will step into our operations role, she's a mom with 2 kids who are in elementary and middle school who are very busy. She doesn't want to be working on the weekends and slinging houses and trying to find leads. She's happy with her role because she knows that that's where her strengths lie, and that's what she's good at. And if she sees that, she's a big part of the vision, right? I would say the agents on my team, they want to build big businesses, but they love the support. And they've also all been in the trenches of like trying to do it themselves and struggling. And so I think they realize that being on the team means that they can have the business that they want, they can have the life that they want, but they get all the support, you know, that they need. So when I hire people, I'm looking for somebody who isn't going to try to take over and who recognizes that this is my ship, and I will kick you off at any time if I need to. So, you know, they want to be successful, and they see the value, because I can't teach culture, right? Like, I will not hire you if during the process of your interview you shit talk somebody else that you used to work for. I'm not going to do that, because when you leave me, you're going to do the same thing. So we hire value-based people who align with us and who have the same vision. We don't expect agents to stay with us forever, but we want people who have a desire to be with us long term because they see the value in being in our world. People who have good character, who fit our core values, who have the culture, and then also who are happy to work hard. Not they will, but they're happy to.
Do you have like strategic questions that you ask for the culture?
We go through the KW process of hiring. But for us, it's like, how long term do you feel like you're going to be here? How do you handle complex situations? And like, have you ever been in a place where like you could have been unethical and you weren't? But also, you know, we've had people who have left teams to come to our team. And when I ask, why do you want to leave that brokerage? Why do you want to, if they're ever negative about that other one, we know they're not a good fit, because we know that like when they decide that this is not the space they want to be in any longer, you can leave respectfully. Most people don't. You know, when I have people that reach out to me and they're saying, are you guys hiring? I hate being on my team. I hate my boss. I hate this. You are not a good fit for me, because you are going to do the same thing. When I piss you off, you're going to go and do the same thing. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't like that.
Yeah. So if people want to follow along your journey or reach out, where should they go?
You can find me on Instagram at Realtor Mom Coach. And also my website is taleyhunt.com.
Nice. And if you were going to talk to your younger self going through these multiple levels of business and you could only leave, let's say, 3 parting wisdoms to them, what would you say?
One is like, look forward, not far. Look forward, have the vision, but don't look so far that all you can see is the potholes that you haven't hit yet and like be negative about it. I have a real bad tendency to think about, well, what if I fail? Like all these things need to be done instead of just looking forward excitedly. 2 would be to do the work and know that the business will come instead of thinking that the leads are going to never come in again and the world's going to fall apart and that if you take a day off, like everything will crash and burn. Know that the business will come and take time for yourself. And then 3 would probably be get into relationship with the right people sooner. I spent the first year of my business totally isolated. And so my life is so much better now that I found the people that I love and that push me, friends, colleagues, people outside of my market, a good coach, things like that are really invaluable. So find the right people, look forward, not far, and do the work and it'll all work out.